Hello there everyone, my name is Crazy Caleb and welcome to Wiresword. So this module is a combination of password and wires. So this is a actually new release from the Vanilla Swirl series. This just got released a couple days ago. I would have gotten this tutorial out sooner. There were a few bugs that we happened to hit along the way, but that happens pretty often with Speaking Evil mods, and I would say don't worry about it because he has a lot of rules that he makes for these mods, and it's amazing that they're actually they're actually functioning as well as they are. Anyways, what we're going to do here is we're going to try and find a password within these series of entangled wires. And there's going to be a series of 5 different displays per position, and we need to figure out what we're looking at here. So, a panel can have 2 to 5 wires on it, and each of which is an encoded letter. Now, how exactly does this work? What does it mean by each wire is an encoded letter? Well, let's take a look down below. And I'm going to have to turn on light mode here for you to see the circles. This is what we're working with here. So, what each position does, and each letter corresponds to, is a position of the alphabet. And it's going to have one combination of each of the wire colors that can be associated with it. So in this case, with alpha, if it is a red going from point 2 to point 2, that's an alpha. If it's a blue going from point 3 to point 3, that's an alpha. If it's a black going from 1 to 4, that's an alpha. And if it's yellow going from 5 to 1, that's an alpha. The same goes for every single letter, how they have a different combination associated with it based on the color of what's present on the module. So, what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and find, with the first 2 displays, we're going to get all of the letters. This is personally the way that I do it, because the way that this works is we need to find a word in this word list using the same color of a series of different wires from each of these panels. Only one combination of panels will match a password below with wires of the same color. So we're going to have a case where each, like a specific color, say red for example, will make a word from this table. And that's what we're trying to figure out. So in my personal recommendation, I would say get the first 2 displays because that rules out a lot of options that you can get with this word list. There are some words that have significantly less amount of words there are some letters that have a significant less amount of words that can appear. For example, Xenia only has 1 X starting word. We have 2 Yankee words, yacht and yearn. We have 3 Zulus, and then we have 3 rows of Sierra words. So there is a huge disbalance in some of the letters that can appear, and it's much easier to get it out of the way. It's much easier to only do 2 displays and try and figure out what the third possible option could be, or what the last 3 displays could be. So, we're going to note this down this way. So we're going to do red, blue, yellow, and black. And another important thing to note is this works like a standard password where each position on the module will represent the position of the word effectively. So if we were to do blind, just like how I am, we would need to be looking for the Bravo in the first position, the Lima in the second, the India in the third, and so on and so forth. It's not going to be scrambled all over the place. That would be a much different mod you'd be working with. And it would be much, much harder to do, in my opinion, too. So just bear that in mind. That's what makes it a little bit easier to work with. It overall is not that bad, it's just long getting all of these wires. So let's get into the bulk of the module, and then we'll worry about how we submit it later on, because then we're going to have to cut a series of wires per panel. There's only going to be 1 correct one, so we have to cut 5 of them, but we need to set it up to the correct panel first. And it's important to note also that wire ordering, for the relevant rules, begins with the first wire at the top left of the set of ports. If you look closely into the module, you can see these little divots, and that's going to represent the ports. You'll kind of get used to just where it is, from the get-go after a while. So, for example, this is a 1 to 5, this is a 3 to 4, this is a 4 to 2, and this is a 5 to 3. So that's just how it's going to work. It's a little bit dark and it's a little bit hard to see, but it's not too hard to get used to, and you have frames of reference from the other points of the mod it can appear on. So, let's get into the bulk of this mod. Let's start decrypting each word from the first 2 each letter from the first 2 displays, and we'll get into the solving process of this later on. So let's get to work on this. So for our first display here, on the first panel in the first position, has a black wire going from 1 to 5. Let's find that. The only thing that I really don't like about this is the way that it on the mod it curves, but on the manual it's a straight line. It's not the exact same, which I mean is just a visual thing, so I wouldn't really worry about it that much. And you'll get used to it by just saying, hey, we're looking for black 1 to 5, and we're looking for blue 2 to 4 or something like that. It's just a matter of looking around. So it's just, this is what the mod is. Where is it? Is it Juliet? Okay, so we're going to start off with that. Then we have a red 3 to 4. Let's look for that one. A red 3 to 4 is a Mike. A red 5 to 3 is what? Red 5 to 3 is a Delta. And we have a blue 4 to 2 is an India. Okie dokie. Let's head to the next panel. We have a yellow 1 to 2, which is a Delta. We have a red 3 to 5. Wherever it might be. Is an X-ray. And we have a red 5 to 1. Is a Foxtrot. And we have a black 4 to 3. Is a Charlie. Okay. Alright, we have a blue 1 to 3. Which is a November. We have a blue 2 to 2. The 2 to 2s are the easiest ones to find in my opinion because they're just looking for a straight line. We have a yellow 3 to 4. Which is an Echo. And we have a red 4 to 1. Which is a Juliet. Yep. We have... Wow. Okay, this is a mess. A lot in the first position, I gotta say. We have a black 1 to 4. Which is an Alpha. We have a yellow... What is that? 2 to 5. 2 to 5, not 1 to 5, 2 to 5 is a Sierra. A yellow 3 to 1. Wherever you might be. Hotel. We have a blue 4 to 3 and a 5 to 2. 4 to 3, 5 to 2. Four to 3 is a Tango. Yep. And 5 to 2 is what? I might have overlooked it. 5 to 2 is Bravo. Okay. And finally, yellow, we have a 4 to 1. I would like to apologize for the people who are watching this in the dark. I'm sorry, I have to use light mode for this. I normally am against it, but I have to. That's an X-ray for yellow. A black 2 to 3 and a 5 to 5. The 5 to 5 is November. And a black 2 to 3 is what? Where are we at? X-ray. Okie dokie. So, this is our first set. These are the possibilities for the first letter of the password that we're looking for each of the individual colors. Only one of them will exist. So now let's go to the second display, and let's begin working through this. And this is going to help really narrow our options down. And then at this point going forward, I would say then we can start looking for a specific color. The specific color that we need to answer. That's going to be the way that I recommend doing this because it's not that many options to work with at that point. So let's go through this. So we have a black 2 to 3, which I believe we had this beforehand, but I could be wrong. Black 2 to 3 is an X-ray. Yeah, we actually did. We just had that. Then a 3 to 4 for that one. Is a Bravo. We have a blue 4 to 1. is Sierra. And then a red 5-5 is a Lima. Yep. Hopefully there's a little bit less options, but it seems to be generating quite a few wires this time around. A 4-4 for November is immediately for the red right there. A 2-5. And by the way, if you're still watching it at this point, I'm going to do only one example of this, which is a Yankee. Then we have a 3-2 for yellow, is a November, and black 1-3. Is a Yankee. Okie dokie. Oh my god, okay. A yellow 1-5. Is in India. We're getting a ridiculous amount of options. A red 3-3. Is a Victor. Then we have the blues 2-1. 2-1 is Delta. We have 4-2 and a 5-4. 4-2, 5-4. 4-2 is in India. 5-4 is a what? Is a whiskey. Okay. Yeah, that should be everything for that display. All right, we have a red 2-1 here. It does not let up. We have a golf. A blue 3-2. Excuse me. Is a Juliet. And then we have a 4-4 for black. Is a Delta. Yep. And then 5-3 for black is what? Is a golf. Okay. Give me like a 2 display. Okay, I'll take a 3. A 2-3 for yellow. And a 4-4 for yellow is what? 2-3 is whiskey. 4-4 is a papa. And a 3-5 for blue. Is a Charlie. Okay. Quite a lot of options we have to work with here. So I'm going to turn this back to the dark mode for now. Actually, no, because I have to look at the wires eventually later on for the third display. But effectively, what we have here is we have a bunch of different options of which we can spell different words here. We can rule out a lot of this stuff pretty quickly based off of the options for the second letters here. And then at this point, if we see anything that we can find, we're going to just look for it effectively. So, all right. So let's start with the red. Let's go here. So Mike words. What can we spell with Mike here? We can do magic, matzo, mare, movie, and that's it. Are any of these options available? Alpha is not available in the second position, so therefore we can rule out all of these. Actually, there's no vowels in the second position, so we can rule out a lot here. I don't even think you can spell a word with any of these. I'm going to be completely honest. We can check, but it seems like it's not an option for even Delta. Decoy, Delta, Devil, Dirge, Disco, Dozen, Drunk, there's no R, and Dusty, there's no uniform. There is no vowels here. Xenia is the only X-ray one, so we can't do that. Foxtrot. Fjord, there is no Juliet, there is no vowels in the second position. Fraud and Fungi, none of those are valid. And then Juliet has what? Joker and Juicy. They're both vowels. So therefore, we know for a fact that our answer is not going to be red. It's nice when you get really weird letters like that because it's a lot easier to just remove it. There were no vowels in the second position, and almost all of these words have a vowel in the second position. A majority do. So let's take a look. Let's move on to blue, because blue I feel like has a lot better opportunity to get this right. So India words. Let's have a look here. Ideas, index, ingot, ichor, itchy, and ivory. We can do ichor. We can do ideas. We cannot do index or ingot. We can't do itchy, and we can't do ivory. So ichor and ideas. Let's look for hotel first, and this is going to be in the blue color. So hotel for blue is going to be a 2 to a 2. Let's see if this exists. It does exist. So let's try and spell out the rest of the word here. We have an Oscar in the 4th position for blue. What does that look like? It's a 3 to 1. It's not ichor. So our word here is not ichor. So we can safely rule that one out. Let's look for echo in the 3rd position now. Echo in the 3rd position with blue is a 2 to 3. Let's see if that exists. It does not. So therefore, it's not ideas as well. We can safely rule out the India here because there are no other options which work. Okay, let's take a look at November words. Nexus and nudge. That's it. None of those options are available, so therefore it's not a November word. Let's take a look at hotel words. We have helix, hazel, havoc, hotel, howdy, human, hyper, and that's it. There is no alphas. There is no echo. There is no Oscar. There is no Oscar. There is no uniform. There is no Yankee. It's not that. Tango words. We have Tesla, not that. Thief, not that. Token, not that. Toxic, not that. Trick, nope. Tulip, no. Turbo, no. Tweak is a possibility. But we do know for a fact that we couldn't do ideas because there is no echo in the 3rd position, so therefore that's not an option. So it's not tango here. Let's take a look at Bravo words. It's not banjo. It's not basiege. However you pronounce it, I don't really know. It's not bayou. Barrel is not an option. Blind is not an option. Borax is not an option. Burnt is not an option. And it's not Bravo. So it's not blue. Okay, let's take a look at yellow wires. Delta. We have decoy, delta, devil, dirge, disco dozen, drunk, and dusty. Quite a few options here. We can do dirge or disco. We can't do decoy. We can't do devil. We don't have echo in the 3rd position. We don't have echo in the 2nd position. There is no Oscar. There is no Romeo, and there is no uniform. So dirge or disco is an option here. So let's try dirge, for example. Romeo for yellow is what? Is a 4 to 3. Let's see if that exists. No, I'm not seeing it. So it's not dirge. Okay. What does it take for Sierra to be spelled out with yellow? Is a 2 to 5. I feel like I've seen that. This is a 2 to 4, so no, I am wrong. Okay, so it's not a delta word, so it's not one of those. Echo words, let's take a look. We have 8. 8 is a possibility. Elbow is not. Enjoy is a possibility. Epoxy or epoxy is an option, yes. And ethyl is not an option. Exact is not an option. So we have 3 options here to work with. Let's try and find golf for 8. Golf is a 4 to 5 for yellow. It does exist, so we can do that. So let's find hotel in the 4th position. It is a 3 to 1 for yellow. It does not exist, so therefore this is not an option. 8 is not a potential. Let's find Juliet in the 3rd position. It is a 5 to 3. It is not an option, so it's not enjoy. And let's find Oscar for yellow in the 3rd position, 2 to 4. I believe it did exist. 2 to 4 does exist. Let's take a look for an X-ray in the 4th position, which is a 4 to 1. Not it. Okay, so we know it's not an echo word, so we can safely rule that one out. Okay, Sierra words. Let's take a look. We have quite a few here. So, satire, no. Shav, no. Scrub, no. Shade, no. Shogi, no. Skine, no. Slump, no. Smart, no. Snick. Snick is an option. Solid. Spark. Straw. Stump. Swab. And sword. Sword is an option. Okay, so snick and sword. I believe we had beforehand something that had an O in the middle of it, which we therefore... I forget if we could find it. but let's figure out if it's an India or Oscar that we can find. India, 1 to 5. Let's find it. First off, we know for a fact that Oscar does exist. A 2 to 4. Yeah, that one's there. So let's try and figure out if there's a 1 to 5. Yeah, so we can rule out Snick real quick. So let's take a look at Sword. So let's look for a Romeo in the 4th position for yellow. A 4 to 3 does exist. Delta needs to have a 1 to 2 in this position for yellow. It does indeed. Our word is sword. Let's set it up to those positions. So for Sierra in the 1st position, it is a 2 to 5. 2 to 5 right there, perfect. For Whiskey, it's a 2 to 3. Right there. Then for the Oscar, we have a 2 to 4, perfect. And then we have the Romeo, which is the 4 to 3, and then we have the Delta, which is a 1 to 2. Perfect. So we now have found our word. Let's take a look at these rules. So the rules that we will use is based off of the amount of wires that is currently on each of the panels we're looking at. So in this case, this one is a 5 rule 1, this is a 3, this is another 5, this is another 3, and this is another 3. So unfortunately, we will not be covering everything, but most of the rules are very easy to understand. What's important to note, and you have to be very careful with this, is when it's referring to encoded letter, you have to make sure if it's referring to password or if it's just referring to encoded letter onto the panel. Because there are rules that have to do with every single encoded letter that is present on each panel. Keep that in mind. So let's take a look. So let's start off with the first one. We have 5 wires. If the position of the wire that is an encoded letter in the password is the same as the panel number, and this is where the position comes in. The wire ordering begins at the first wire at the top of the left set of ports. So, if the position of the wire that is the encoded letter of the password is the same as the panel number. So in this case, our panel number is 4. Was the wire color that we used for the S at the port 4? In this case, it is not, because port 4 is a blue wire. We did not use blue as our color. So therefore, this is not true. Otherwise, if there is more than one of the same encoded letter that is not the encoded letter in the password, cut the 3rd wire. So this is effectively checking for if there is a duplicate letter present that is not including the encoded letter of the password. So in this case, this one would be Sierra. If there is a duplicate Sierra, that doesn't count. But if there's 2 letters that are the exact same, then it counts. So let's take a look here. So we have a black that's from 1 to 4. Let's open this back up, which is an alpha. Do we have any other alphas? We do not. The other yellow is a 3 to 1, which is hotel. Do we have any other hotels? No. This therefore means that that these 2 blues are guaranteed to be different. They have to be different because they are 2 different blues. So therefore, this rule does not apply. If there are no red wires, which is true, we're going to cut the 2nd wire. So we're going to do, this is the 1st wire, and this yellow going down to the 5 is our 2nd wire. And just like that, that's good to go. All right, next up. This one has 3 wires. If all wires are different colors and all encodings are different letters, nope, because we have 2 yellows. If there's more than 1 black wire, no. If there are no encoded vowels, let's take a look. So we know that the whiskey that we used for this, which I believe was this one, is not a vowel. So we know that that one's good. Let's take a look at the other yellow. So the yellow, this one is a papa, and this blue from 3 to 5 is a what? 3 to 5. Is it a vowel? First off, let's actually just figure out what it is. Is it Charlie? So no. Therefore, if there are no encoded vowels, we're going to do this rule. We're going to cut the last wire that is not an encoded letter in the password. So, effectively what this means is, with respect to the 3 wires present, we're gonna do either the lowest one. We're gonna do the lowest one that is not the whiskey in this case. So, the whiskey was here, so it's between these two. And since the 4 is lower than the 3 on the left side, we're gonna cut this one. There we go. Perfect. So now let's go back to this 5-wire condition. If the position of the wire that is an encoded letter in the password is the same as the panel number, in this case we're going to look for the 3. Is this in the 3rd position? So this is an Oscar. It is not. It is a 2 to 4, so therefore this condition does not apply. It would need to be this one to be our encoded letter for the password in order for us to cut that one. If there is more than one of the same encoded letter that is not the encoded letter in the password, cut the 3rd wire. Okay, let's take a look. We have red going from 1 to 2, which is a Sierra. The other Sierra options do not exist. Let's see what this black is. We have a 5 to 3. I'm just kind of eyeballing it now at this point. So 5 to 3 is a golf. We do not have a yellow going from 4 to 5, unfortunately. So therefore, we know for a fact that all of these yellows are also going to be different from each other. So therefore, this rule does not apply. If it wasn't relevant in the red or the black, and one of the yellows was there as well, we would then do that rule. However, that did not happen. If there are no red wires, there is a red wire. So therefore, this does not apply. Otherwise, cut the 4th wire. So we're going to cut 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to cut this one going up to 1. That's good to go. Perfect. All right, back to 3 wires for the rest of the mod. We can actually do this one also right here. If all wires are different colors and all encodings are different letters, we can check that later though. So they both actually have this case. If all wires are different colors and all encodings are different letters, let's take a look at these actually. I just completely overshadowed that entire thing. So we know that this one's Romeo. Is there any other Romeos here? This does not apply, and this does not apply. Perfect. So now, let's take a look. From 1 to 4, what is black? That's an alpha. Yeah, they're all different letters, because this red is not alpha either. So therefore, this rule does apply. We're simply going to cut the 2nd wire here, which is the red. Perfect. Let's do the same thing with this one. If all wires are different colors, which they are, and all encodings are different letters, let's take a look. So this is a delta for yellow. We do not have any of those cases apply. There's no 4 to 4 for blue. There's 4 to 4 for black. If it was black, that would be an issue. And there's no 5 to 5 for red. 4 to 4 for blue. 5 to 5 is Lima for red. The 4 to 4 is not Lima for blue. So therefore, this also applies. We're going to cut the 2nd wire. And just like that is a solved module. This will be the only one that I'll do. As you can see, it takes a while to actually process and handle everything. It will be a lot faster on your end when you're not having to look over the rules and watch the tutorial. But that is the way how this mod works, and it's personally the way I would recommend it. If you want to do the way of like getting all of the colors of one specific type and then going that way, that also would work as well. It's up to you, really. Because that is also a strategy, just focusing one color and just trying to see if you can get anything. So that's all I really have for you guys. It's a very simple mod to do. It's a very simple mod to understand. It is, however, just very long to do. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to stay crazy, stay cool, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye!